Okay, podcast community, welcome back. My name is Cam King, and this is Three Questions Podcast, episode number 74. And admittedly, I have not had a lot of time to record podcasts, especially over the past month. That is on me. I've been very busy, very drained, very tired. That is not an excuse not to get out content and not to hold myself accountable for doing all of the things that I've been wanting to do. But it's been really good because I've been feeling a little bit refreshed about where I want to take this podcast. And in general, as I continue to put these short 15-minute podcast episodes out, I want mostly my clients to understand, who I know listen to this podcast, to be that this is for you. I am not some sort of guru. I'm not a know-it-all. I'm not even a life coach, as many of my new clients have kind of approached me as. And what I used to do in the advertising world was I was a new business director, and I was always connecting and working with clients and working with my creative teams to implement creative technology solutions for these really, really cool experiences. And a lot of the content that I have been putting out over the past couple of years is focused on self-development, self-growth, and marketing, business, sales, just being a better human being overall. And it's not my intent to keep putting out these episodes with just me. I'm honestly trying to get way more people on and find the time to get experts who know way more than me onto this podcast to share their expertise, their questions, and overall their life experience, right? The things that they want to talk about and to share. So going forward, again, if you want to be a guest, if you have a story to tell, if there are three questions you want to answer yourself, please reach out, please contact me. I want to get you on the podcast and I want to get your voice heard. You don't have to be successful. I just want to hear other people's perspectives. So this podcast is going to be empowering other people here in the near future, entrepreneurs, executives, C-level people, and even young college kids. I would love to have a couple college kids on here if you are listening to that. So if you have something you want to say, if you want to practice doing a podcast, this is the perfect opportunity for you, right? There are no holds barred here, and we can sort of talk about anything. So without further ado, I want to get right into episode number 74. I think this is going to be a really good one. I think that the questions here were submitted by one of my clients who submitted a slew of questions. So episode 74, 75, and 76 here will be answering those questions. So again, if you don't know, Three Questions Podcast is a short, hard-hitting 10 to 20-minute podcast where I will answer three questions and give myself about 5 minutes each. Sometimes I'll look at these questions up, especially if I don't have a good reference for them. But I'm going to give you my 2 cents. Not that my word is God at all. I'm just going to give you some perspective and hopefully stretch your brain out here. So let's hop into it here. And the first couple questions that we're going to talk about are mostly business and client focused. Actually, there are some on marketing and sales for the future. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started with question number one. So, question number one, what is a future memory you'd like to have? I feel like I've answered this maybe about 4 or 5 podcasts ago, but for me, the same thing always comes up. And much of my life, much of my being, my existence is surrounded by my German Shepherd, Sadie, whom I love and I cherish so much. She is sitting behind me and she's 8 years old. I got her at 6 weeks old from Austin, Texas. I was there at a conference. I was there for South by Southwest, the technology portion. And I was at a bar and I met a guy who lived outside of Austin. It was a barbecue joint. We got talking at the bar as one does during a conference. And he asked me, he's like, oh, so you're just down here for the conference? You got a family back home? At the time, I had a girlfriend. And I was like, no, no, no kids, none of that, but always wanted a dog. And he was like, oh, what kind of dog do you want? And I was like, I've always wanted a German Shepherd. And he's like, really? He's like, no lie, I just had a litter of German Shepherd puppies. He's like, I can meet you. You can check them out if you want. And I met him the next day at a park in Austin, Texas. And I was playing with these two German Shepherd puppies, both female. They were 6 weeks old, cutest things ever. And one fell asleep like kind of near the owner, and the other one kept playing with me. And my heart just melted, and I was like, okay, like, how much do you want? And he was like, $400, just pay for the shots, pay for the food, whatever. And I was like, okay, deal. And so I went to the ATM, gave this guy $400, and he was like, all right, like, I'll see you later. And all of a sudden I had a 6-week-old puppy in my hands. And I was like, oh my God, like, what have I done? I'm responsible for this thing for the rest of my life. And I was, shit, how old was I? 26, maybe 25, 26. And I immediately went to Petco, got this tiny pink leash, like a 3, 4 foot leash, and like a harness. And I put her on it, got her some Benadryl, got her some food. I put food in a coffee filter in a tiny little like water bowl and was at my Airbnb. And I was like, I can't go to this conference. I can't leave this little tiny puppy alone. So I like totally skimped out on the last day of all the conference attendees. And yeah, I gave her half a tab of Benadryl, went to the airplane, and they were like, you have to, put her in this thing and put her below the seat. And she was whimpering and whining. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. And so this whole flight back from Austin, Texas to Boston, I held Sadie in my hands. And I named her Sadie because I felt like it was kind of a Sadie Hawkins type thing where like the girls asked the guys. And I felt like she chose me. And man, I'm getting the chills talking about this, but I remember bringing her back to Boston and going home and surprising my girlfriend, be like, "Hey, come over. Like, I have a surprise for you." And maybe she thought it was ring, flowers, who knows? But I showed her this puppy, and she wanted a German Shepherd too her whole life. And all of a sudden, I let her out, and Sadie's running around the backyard. We still had all this snow that year, and it was like my heart melted. Like my whole life, everything I've done has really rotated around that dog. And so to answer your question about what would I want for a future memory, I want my life and all the memories that I have with Sadie. I want to take her on a road trip to Italy or throughout Europe. I want to rent a car and, manual, and I just want to drive around and I want to show her all of the most famous places in Europe, especially Italy. So that's on my to-do list in the next couple of years. And I think about that almost every day. So yeah, kind of crazy, kind of really unique and original. But if there was one thing in the world that I could do, and if there's one future memory I'd like to have, it's that one. I'd like to take a couple months off and, go write, record, shoot videos, travel around, continue my coaching and consulting business from there, and just have the time of my life and her life, and if there's a special someone there to share that with me, awesome, even better. But I'd really like to have that memory with Sadie in the future. So all right, enough sappy stuff for that because I've definitely talked about that before. Let's hop into question number 2, which is what are my biggest pet peeves? This is an easy one for me. So pet peeves really come from things that I disliked about myself. And my greatest lesson to date that I have ever learned from a relationship or from business or just from thinking about it so often is keeping my word. So when people do not keep their word, I feel like that's it. How can you trust a person if somebody does not keep their word? And I am not a perfect individual. In the past, I have not kept my word. And adding to that, I have not aligned my word with my actions. And a dissolution of a 7-year relationship for me taught me that. I remember when my ex and I split, she said, I can't trust you because your word and your actions are not aligned. You have continued, during the breakup process, she kind of kept coming back and we tried, but I was unable at that time to align my words and my actions, right? My emotions were getting the best of me and I was not who I am today during that time. And I think very much for me, I had to focus and really look at myself very hard and say, why are you not keeping your word? Why are you giving your word and then not following through? Why are your words and your actions not aligned? And it was because I didn't have a clear path on who I was and where I wanted to go. And at that time, it was very, I think it's very easy for many people to be caught up in their own emotions when they don't know who they are and they don't know what they want. And until you find those two things out and you put everything outside of those parameters, you will not be able to walk that path if you are constantly being taken away or you're constantly getting dragged or this emotion brings you that way or you are too opportunistic or you have too much FOMO. And for me, when I see other people now who cannot keep their word, I do not give them the time of day. I no longer trust them. I try to not associate with them and I try to let them go because me letting them go instead of me trying to lecture friends or family members or girlfriends or people in relationships, anyone in my life, I don't want to lecture people to the point where I'm trying to change them, right? I let them go and hopefully they can learn the lessons that they need to in order to eventually find out that, hey, keeping your word to yourself and to others and following through when you say you're going to do something is the most powerful thing that you can do. I remember one time I was in Denver and one of my college buddies also lived there. And, we bumped in, we got food or drinks one day. And he was like, yeah, I'm moving on Friday or Saturday. He's like, I definitely need a few hands. Like if you'd be willing to do it. And I remember this is right around the time where I was like officially bought into only giving my word. And I said, yeah, man, I'll be there for sure. And I ended up going out with some other friends on Friday and I woke up deathly hungover on Saturday. And I remember this crushing guilt because I just made this promise to myself that, hey, from now on, I'm going to keep my fucking word when I say I do something. And I woke up, right? And I slammed a bunch of water, took my dog for a quick walk, and then I jetted over like 30 minutes to go help my buddy move like all of his furniture into a truck and then into his new house the next day. And I came home and I slept for like 18 hours because I was wiped. So I think that following through with your word is one of the best and most important things a person can do. And even if you have $0 or you're in a ton of debt or you're stressed out, or you're alone or you're broken or you're down or you're depressed or everything is going right for you in your life, doesn't matter where you are, you have got to commit to keeping your word. And it really, really pains me when somebody gives me their word that they're going to do something and then they do not do it. It is what it is. I get it. I really, really really try to accept when people let me down. I try not to have expectations of people, but I ask people very pointed, very forward questions so that they can give me a yes or a no. I hate when people are also on the fence. Like, be decisive and make a decision. It's okay to say no. In fact, if I ask you something and you say, no, man, I can't do that, I respect you a little bit more because you're setting a boundary or you just don't want to commit to doing that. But people in Boston are very good with giving their word when they say they're going to do something. Other parts of the country that I have lived in, my personal experience is that it doesn't follow suit as much as it had for me in the Northeast. Now I work in an industry, my job, I'm surrounded by very, very highly motivated individuals, by guys who are at the top of their game, both mentally, physically, and emotionally. And if I ever ask them to do something, I know I could count on them. And I wish I found that more in the civilian world. I find that very difficult to find in the civilian world. And I want to see more people who live and breathe keeping their word, men and women included. So I hope that makes sense. And if you can take anything from that, take what you will, but take that one to heart, especially. That would mean a lot to me. Now, question number three. What is a cause that you are passionate about? Great, great question. So for me, this has been a really big thing for me in the past, and that is I adore special education people. People with Down syndrome, people with learning disabilities, people with physical handicaps, whatever it is, any type of wheelchair bound person, somebody who is no longer someone who is I don't even want to say handicapped, but someone who is working with a challenge in their life, right? Whether mentally, physically, emotionally, or biologically. Every time I see these people in life, I find that they have a certain characteristic to them. They have a spark about them. They have a zest for life and for passion that is absolutely beautiful because the frame and the glass that they are looking through is much different than the average person, myself included. Other people who go through life and feel like we don't have anything or feel like we don't have a partner or feel like life is down in the dumps. You still have two legs, you still have two arms, you still have two eyes, right? You're able to walk and move and communicate, and you're able to think creatively. And those things are inherently such a gift. You can drive yourself places, right? You can eat food. You don't have to eat through a tube. You can read books. You can understand something. And for me, I am way past due giving more of my time in my life to volunteer to work with these types of individuals. And I think that that is something that I may shift to after the military is working with special education children or some sort of physical handicap because these people are just the brightest, most beautiful people that I've ever seen. They're always happy, they're always in a good mood, they're always smiling. And I go out of my way when I see them in a grocery store or see them in a public setting, to wave or to smile because they always give it back. Always, always, always. And I don't know how it's possible for them to have this beautiful persona, this amazing aura about them. And my heart flutters every time I see them. And I've said it to my previous girlfriends, I've said it to friends, I've said it to myself. And I just get jazzed up when I see them. And I want to be surrounded and give more of my time selflessly to those individuals. I don't know what it is. And this is something that I need to follow. I think that whenever you get a chill up your spine, or whenever you get that feeling of intuition or a spark of life that tells you to go in a certain direction, or hey, this is something that I feel passionate about, that happens to me every single time. And I haven't acted on that. So I am extremely passionate about those individuals in life who are not even suffering, but who have those predicaments or ailments or physical obstructions or mental obstructions. And I want to be able to share memories with them. I want to be able to not even feed off of them, but I want to experience the joy and the passion for life and the little things that they do. Because it's truly the little things, right? Whether it's getting ice cream or seeing John Cena. Shane Gillis has a bunch of really funny content because he has a Down syndrome family member, and he talks about the joys of them being so happy, and it's so true. So for me, this is a direction I need to go in and focus on more. And your question here, Brad, it's an excellent one, and it's reminding me that I need to do more in that area. So that's a cause I'm very passionate about, whether it's the Special Olympics or just general volunteering or going and playing sports or reading books or hanging out with them. I've had dreams of taking a number of people with Down syndrome to like metal concerts. I don't know what that's about, but that's come to me in meditations before. And I've looked up organizations that actually do that, and it's pretty awesome. So if I can get involved in stuff like that, I don't know when or where I'll be able to forge that time, hopefully in the coming months, but I will continue to look into that. And I highly encourage you and those of you listening to this podcast, whether on YouTube or Spotify, to find something like that and to volunteer your time to share these incredible moments and incredible memories with in a very selfless way. So that's it for questions here. That's been Three Questions Podcast, episode number 74. Hopefully you guys learned something. If you want to submit questions, you can do so either DM or you can send it to threequestionspodcast@gmail.com. My coaching and consulting business, I work with entrepreneurs. I help them focus personally and professionally on essentially 6 areas, and that's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, academic, and financial. And I really help grow people in that way. If you think about the intersection of your own personal and professional life, if that's an area you would like more growth in, please reach out to me. I am offering 1 to 2 free sessions given on my schedule. Reach out. I do charge hourly for that, but I always see my clients experience a massive amount of growth, both personally, professionally, and financially. So love talking about those things. Thank you for listening to Three Questions Podcast. Please leave a review. Please subscribe if you're listening to this as well. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.